In a land ruled by pride and tyranny, where the cries of the oppressed echoed in the silence of fear, a prophecy stirred the heart of a ruthless king. He feared the rise of a child, one not yet born, but destined to defy him. To silence destiny, he unleashed a storm of blood and grief, slaughtering the innocent before they could even breathe. But amidst the cruelty and chaos, a mother clung to hope, a river carried a secret, and a child floated silently toward fate. This child, Musa, would grow not in the arms of peasants, but in the palace of the very tyrant who sought his death. And from within the heart of darkness, Allah would raise a liberator. This is not just a story of miracles. It is a tale of faith, struggle, and a mission that would shake empires and part seas. Thousands of years ago, when the desert sands of Egypt shimmered under a relentless sun, a man ruled with an iron fist and a heart of stone. This man, Pharaoh, considered himself not just a king, but a god among men. He bathed in praise, sat on thrones carved from the suffering of others, and demanded that all bow before his name. He was intoxicated with power, and his pride knew no bounds. The people of Egypt feared him, not just for his title, but for the way he wielded his wrath. None dared speak against him, yet among the people he enslaved, Bani Israel, there was whispered hope, whispers of a prophecy, of a child who would be born and who would one day bring down the empire built on pain and chains. These whispers found their way into the royal court. Pharaoh, though he claimed divinity, was not immune to fear. The idea that a mere infant could challenge his throne unsettled him. He summoned his magicians, his priests, his dream interpreters, men cloaked in illusion and superstition. They huddled in silence as he described a vision that had visited him in sleep. A fire had spread from the lands of Jerusalem, devouring every home in Egypt, yet sparing those of Bani Israel. The priests exchanged glances, their faces pale, and then spoke. A child would rise from the enslaved, one who would end Pharaoh's reign. Panic spread like wildfire through the palace halls. Orders were given, ruthless and swift. Every newborn boy from Bani Israel was to be slain at birth. Midwives became instruments of murder. Cradles were left empty, homes soaked in the tears of mothers who dared not scream. But Pharaoh, for all his schemes, had not considered the wear of time. His advisors came to him, warning that if every boy was killed, soon there would be no men to labor, no workers to build monuments in his name. They proposed a compromise: kill the boys born in one year, spare those born in the next. Pharaoh agreed. It was not mercy, it was strategy. In the year the sword rested, Harun was born. And in the year the sword rose again, Musa came into the world. His mother trembled as she held him, knowing that the sound of his first cry could summon death. She looked into his eyes and saw something divine, something beyond her fear. And as she wept, a whisper came, not from man, but from her Lord. Feed him, love him, and when fear takes hold, place him in a basket and cast him upon the Nile. For I will return him to you. I will make him one of my messengers. The night was silent when she obeyed. Her hands, though trembling, wrapped him in soft cloth. She kissed his forehead, whispered a prayer only a mother could say, and placed him in the basket. The river carried him gently, unaware that it bore a secret that would change the world. Soldiers walked the banks, unaware of the treasure slipping past their eyes. The Nile flowed to the very heart of Pharaoh's palace, where fate awaited. As the basket bobbed against the palace walls, it caught the eye of a servant. Curiosity turned into astonishment. A baby? Here? The cries summoned Asiya, the queen, Pharaoh's wife. She was not like her husband. In her heart lived mercy, compassion, and an aching void. She had no children of her own. When she looked upon the child, Allah placed love in her heart. "Let him be mine," she whispered to Pharaoh. "He will be the joy of my heart. Do not kill him." Pharaoh, seeing no threat in an infant, agreed. And so Musa was raised not in hiding, but in luxury. He walked the polished floors of his enemy's palace. He wore fine robes, ate from silver plates, and learned from scholars meant to train princes. But Allah had a purpose that no man could rewrite. This child, born under the decree of death, would grow under the very roof of tyranny. Years passed. Musa grew into a strong and noble young man. He walked with confidence, but his heart was restless. Though dressed like royalty, he felt a pull toward the oppressed people in the shadows, the workers with sun-scorched skin and broken backs. He watched their suffering. He listened to their pain. Something inside him stirred. One day he wandered through the city and came upon a fight, an Egyptian guard striking a man from Bani Israel. The oppressed man cried out to Musa for help. Without thinking, driven by anger and instinct, Musa struck the Egyptian. The blow was fatal. Musa staggered back, his hands trembling. He had not meant to kill. His soul sank beneath a wave of guilt. He fled into the shadows and cried to Allah. "Forgive me," he said, his heart breaking. And Allah, who is most merciful, forgave him. For it was not murder, but a mistake born of justice. The next day, Musa saw the same man from Bani Israel again, fighting with another. Musa rebuked him. "You are a troublemaker," he said. But the man, out of fear, cried out, "Will you kill me as you killed the Egyptian yesterday?" The words echoed. Hidden ears heard. The secret was out. Whispers turned into reports. Pharaoh's court was informed. A warrant for Musa's death was issued. But Allah does not abandon his chosen. A man, loyal in secret, ran to Musa and warned him, "They seek your life. Flee!" Without delay, without possessions, Musa ran. Across burning sands, barefoot and alone, he fled the only home he had ever known. The sun beat down on his back. Hunger gnawed at his belly. His lips cracked from thirst. But he kept walking, toward the unknown, toward Midian. Days turned to nights. He walked in fear and faith, hiding by day, moving by night. Dust clung to his clothes, his feet blistered and raw. But Allah was with him, guiding every step. After days of travel, he reached a well in Midian. There 2 women stood, trying to water their flock. They waited at a distance, unable to move the heavy stone covering the well. Musa approached. His limbs ached, his throat dry, yet he stepped forward. He moved the stone alone, something 10 men could not do. The women watered their sheep and left in gratitude. That night, Musa lay beneath a tree, his body weak, but his heart still whispering to Allah. "Oh my Lord," he prayed, "I am in need of whatever good you can send me." His voice cracked, his eyes closed. And then footsteps approached. One of the women had returned. She spoke gently. "My father wishes to thank you." Musa followed her to the home of an old man, the Prophet Shu'aib. There he found shelter. He told his story, hiding nothing. The old man listened, then smiled with wisdom. "You are safe here," he said, and in time he offered his daughter's hand in marriage, with a condition: Musa would work for him for 8 years, or 10 if he chose. Musa agreed. It was not just work, it was healing, it was training. 10 years of peace, reflection, and divine preparation. 10 years of becoming the man who would return not just to see his past, but to fulfill a mission. But destiny, as always, waited patiently. And soon the desert would whisper his name once more. After 10 long years in the quiet lands of Madian, Musa had carved out a life far from the turmoil of Egypt. He had found peace in hard labor, love in marriage, and guidance under the roof of the wise prophet Shu'aib. Each sunrise brought him closer to understanding patience. and each night he fell asleep with a heart less burdened by the guilt of his past. He had fulfilled his promise to Shu'aib, serving diligently, tending flocks, and living with a sense of purpose unknown to him during his youth in the palace. But in the heart of every prophet lies a stirring, a pull towards something greater, something unseen but deeply felt. And so, one day Musa set out with his family, traveling through the barren desert toward Egypt, unaware that destiny was already rising over the horizon. The night air was cool, and the stars shimmered like scattered diamonds across the heavens. As Musa led his family through the unfamiliar terrain, he noticed a fire flickering in the distance atop Mount Sinai. The flames danced, not with the fury of destruction, but with a gentle, inviting light that cut through the dark like a beacon. He turned to his family and said, "Stay here. I have seen a fire. Perhaps I can bring you some of its warmth, or find guidance from those nearby." He moved toward it, unaware that each step brought him closer to a conversation that would change the course of history. As he approached the flame, something happened. The fire did not crackle like normal flame. It shimmered in place, unmoving, untouched by wind. And from within it came a voice, not the voice of man, not the sound of any creature Musa had known. It was a voice that pierced through the bones, yet wrapped around the heart like warmth. A voice unlike anything on earth. It called him by name. "O Musa!" He froze, his heart pounding like a drum in his chest. "Indeed, I am your Lord. Remove your sandals, for you are in the sacred valley of Tuwa." Musa fell to the ground. Fear and awe rippled through him. The earth beneath his feet had changed. The desert had become a sanctuary, a sacred place not marked on any map, but chosen by the divine. The voice continued, full of majesty and mercy. "I have chosen you, so listen to what is revealed. Indeed, I am Allah. There is no deity except me. So worship me and establish prayer for my remembrance." Musa listened, tears streaking his face. The voice was not just commanding, it was comforting. And then the voice gave him a task. "Go to Pharaoh. Indeed, he has transgressed." The name brought back a flood of memories, cries in the palace corridors, chains on the hands of the innocent, the harsh eyes of soldiers, in the face of the tyrant who called himself a god. Musa's heart raced. He had escaped that world. Now he was being sent back, sent not to flee but to confront, sent not as a fugitive but as a prophet. He asked, his voice trembling, "My Lord, expand for me my chest, and ease for me my task, and untie the knot from my tongue, that they may understand my speech, and appoint for me a helper from my family, Harun, my brother." Allah granted him his request. The mission was clear. The task was divine. Musa would not go alone. His brother Harun would stand beside him, and the heavens would support them. Armed not with weapons but with truth, Musa and Harun returned to Egypt. The city had not changed. The whip still cracked. The pyramids still rose like the bones of slaves, and Pharaoh's banner still waved high. But Musa was no longer the man who had once fled. He walked with purpose, his staff in hand, his brother by his side, and the command of Allah in his heart. They entered the court of Pharaoh, bold and unflinching. The guards stepped aside, confused by the courage in their eyes. Pharaoh sat on his throne, amused by the sight of the man he once called adopted son, now returned as a challenger. He laughed, the sound echoing through the marble halls. "Musa," he said with a smirk, "have you returned after all this time to mock me? To be ungrateful for the home I gave you?" Musa stood tall. "I am the messenger of the Lord of the worlds. Let the children of Israel go." The court fell silent. Pharaoh's eyes darkened. He mocked. He sneered. He accused. "And what is the Lord of the worlds?" He scoffed, waving his hand dismissively. "The Lord of the heavens and the earth," Musa replied. and all that is between them, if you would be certain." Pharaoh turned to his council. "Do you hear him? This madman speaks of gods besides me." Still, Musa stood firm. Pharaoh, desperate to humiliate him, called forth his sorcerers. He promised them riches and power if they could defeat Musa in a public duel. Word spread quickly. A grand day was chosen. The people gathered in thousands, expecting a spectacle. The sun rose on the day of confrontation. Pharaoh's magicians came forward, confident in their craft. They threw their ropes and staffs upon the ground. Illusions danced. The people gasped as serpents seemed to slither across the earth. Magic blinded their eyes. Then Musa cast his staff. It became a real serpent, living and mighty. It devoured the illusions whole. The crowd recoiled in awe. The magicians fell to the ground, not in fear, but in belief. "We believe," they cried, "in the Lord of Musa and Harun." Pharaoh's pride shattered. Rage consumed him. He threatened them with torture, with death. But their hearts had turned. No spell could bind them now. They had seen truth. Still, Pharaoh would not surrender. He hardened his heart, even as plague after plague struck his land. Blood in the rivers, frogs swarming the homes, lice, locusts, darkness that blanketed the skies. Each time he begged Musa to pray for relief. Each time, once the plague was lifted, he returned to his tyranny. Then came the final command from Allah. Musa was to lead the children of Israel out of Egypt, silently in the night. Word spread quickly among the faithful. They gathered quietly and quickly and fled into the desert under the cover of stars. When Pharaoh awoke and learned of their escape, his fury exploded. He summoned his army. Chariots rolled out, soldiers marched, and the sound of war drums echoed. They pursued the fugitives, faster and faster, determined to crush them once and for all. Musa and his people reached the edge of the sea. The water stretched endlessly before them. Behind the thunder of horses and iron, panic spread. "We are surely overtaken," the people cried. Musa raised his hand, his voice calm, unwavering. "Number, indeed, with me is my Lord. He will guide me." Then came the command, "Strike the sea with your staff." And he did. The sea split. Walls of water towered on either side. A dry path opened, wide enough for an entire nation. The children of Israel stepped forward, guided not by maps but by faith. Pharaoh saw the miracle and still gave chase, blinded by rage. As the last of the faithful crossed and Pharaoh's army entered the sea, the waters surged. They collapsed. The waves thundered. The tyrant and his army were swallowed whole. And in his final moment, Pharaoh cried out, "I believe in the God of Musa." But it was too late. The door of repentance had closed. Musa watched from the shore as the sea returned to calm. The people fell to their knees, shaken, tearful, free. But freedom was not the end. It was the beginning. Musa would guide his people through the wilderness. He would climb the mountain once more to speak to Allah. He would receive the commandments, the laws, the guidance meant to shape a nation. Yet the people would falter. They would grow impatient, lose faith, worship a golden calf in his absence. Musa would return in anger, casting the tablets in despair. He would plead with Allah for mercy, not for himself, but for them. He would lead. He would teach. He would strive. For though the sea had parted and the tyrant had drowned, the true struggle was just beginning. The struggle to build a faithful heart, to obey without seeing, to walk through the desert of doubt with the light of divine truth. And Musa, the man who once floated in a basket upon the Nile, would carry that light until the end of his days.